Recently, CD Projekt Red made the seemingly exciting announcement that Witcher 4, or whatever it might be called, is now officially in production, beginning a new chapter in the Witcher universe with the rubric, "A New Saga Begins," implying it might again be a trilogy. Understandably, this has got the fans excited, and for good reason, as whatever your own personal take on the Witcher trilogy is, The Wild Hunt has been one of the most beloved and popular RPGs of all time, and news of a potential continuation of a game set in this universe has sent the internet into a furore of speculation and happy anticipation. This isn't difficult to understand, given the fact that the impact of The Witcher Wild Hunt, sometimes referred to as Witcher 3, was greater than that of any other game they had made, and had cemented CD Projekt Red's reputation as a top-of-the-line AAA developer, and at least for a time, hallowed them in the eyes of fans and consumers, at least until late 2020 when something happened. More on that later. Now, I too have interest in the potential of such a game, and I did enjoy the Witcher series quite a bit, but I cannot help but look at the coming title without a bit of skepticism for a number of reasons. One reason we might be skeptical is precisely what happened towards the end of 2020. Almost all of the world had fallen under the spell of what might have been the greatest overhype campaign ever waged by any company, coupled by the public buying into the hype. I am, of course, talking about Cyberpunk 2077. The result of this was a less than stellar release of a game that promised the heavens but was all too earthly in its content. And to be absolutely fair, it was a decent game. But it was just not the game that the world had been promised. The game that would set RPG standards for generations to come. The fallout from CD Projekt Red's marketing at the time did not hurt their bottom line, but it did hurt their long-term reputation, especially after such slogans as, "We leave the greed to others." Most companies and developers never suffer permanent penalties from whatever reputational damage they have caused by their actions. But there is a more relevant matter to discuss before we fall for the next hype train and succumb to excitement. What very few people have noticed or mentioned is the fact that CD Projekt Red has been hemorrhaging employees for years. And this didn't just happen on the heels of Cyberpunk 2077. In 2016, 17, 18, all the way up until the present. Much of this has to do with the now infamous and well-known crunch work schedules and the fact that CD Projekt Red would often scrap entire projects to start anew, leaving their employees exhausted, hopeless, and drained, with management making things worse by not working to coordinate their decisions in an appropriate manner with the people working under them. And some of these departures were fairly high profile, such as a test lead in 2021, which is to say that studio morale probably has not been doing well for quite some time. Some of these departures have even led to the creation of new studios and new games that are currently in development. For example, Gourd, which is a project led by Stan Just, a former producer from CD Projekt Red. We simply do not know what the consequences of all these departures will be, and it's very likely that the team that originally worked on the Witcher series, and in particular Witcher 3, or The Wild Hunt, is only partly represented at the current CD Projekt Red. As a consequence, we really have no idea what the impact of this will be, and it could very easily be the case that the studio currently finds itself in a BioWare situation, one in which the name carries a phantom reputation that can no longer be attributed to the current company, as BioWare today is not the BioWare of old, as we all know. The games that BioWare have produced in recent years are not reflections of that older, now phantom-bound reputation, as evidenced by their ever-waning quality, and that drop in quality could easily be something that could affect CD Projekt as well, for similar reasons, given the circumstances. The risk that CD Projekt Red currently finds itself in a similar situation is not to be discounted after bleeding out so many former employees, and we might even have some evidence for this in their current aggressive recruitment of new employees and their adoption of the Unreal Engine 5, in part because their in-house made Red Engine seemed to provide their employees with no end to problems and might have been a source of great frustration for them. What the end result of this will be, no one knows, but I think caution should be the byword here, because there are simply too many unknowns regarding this going forward. On top of all of that, we all know how long CD Projekt Red likes to take on their development of games, so don't expect a release before 2027, or possibly even 2029 or 2030. That is a fairly long way off, so I would say not much to get excited about in addition to all the other potential issues I've raised. And finally, we have the issue of the legacy effect. Which legacy, you might ask? The legacy of Witcher 3. It was a legacy that Cyberpunk 2077 was weighed against, and it had been found wanting. But how much worse will it be in the future when a Witcher Universe game is released, and it fails in similar fashion to Cyberpunk 2077? In terms of comparison to the legacy of Witcher 3. I shudder to think of the fallout that might result from that, and yet such comparisons are inevitable. However good Witcher 4 might be, it will have to simply outdo Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. And that is indeed a tall order. I think at this stage, it's very safe to say that CD Projekt Red really has their work cut out for them. As always, thank you for tuning in. Please leave a like, comment, subscribe, as it really helps out the channel, and I will check you out later. Take care.